news story saying that the FAA, after notifying the military about the first flight only 9 minutes before it crashed into the North Tower, did not notify it about the other 3 flights at all until after they had already crashed. This news story was popularized by Michael Bronner in a Vanity Fair article called 9/11, The NORAD Tapes, to which I devote the first chapter of my book. The tapes in question were used by the 9/11 Commission to construct its news story. The military later gave these tapes to Bronner, who, as one of the producers of the film United 93, had proven that he would faithfully support the official line. The fact that Bronner was singled out by the military to receive these tapes means that his article can be considered a semi-official report. And Bronner surely did what the military had hoped, claiming that these tapes present the authentic military history of 9/11. But there are many reasons to doubt this claim. Let's take the claim that the FAA's air traffic controllers did not contact the military about the first flight, American Flight 11, until 8:38, only 9 minutes before it hit the tower. This would have been 24 minutes after the controller had seen the first sign of trouble, and 13 minutes after they knew that the plane appeared to be hijacked. There are many reasons to doubt this account. One of these involves discoveries I made while writing 9/11, Debunking 9/11 Debunking. Generally, I simply report other people's discoveries, but this time I did a little empirical work myself. This work involved extended email conversations with 2 air traffic controllers who have worked at FAA's Boston Center, which was in charge of Flight 11 when its troubles developed. Robin Horden, who worked there until 1981 and now lives in the Seattle area, and Colin Scoggins, who was and still is the military expert at Boston Center. Because of the information provided to me by these 2 men, we now have a much stronger evidence than we had before, which was pretty strong, that the official story about American Flight 11 is false. Although Scoggins did not himself say this, the information that he provided shows that his phone call to the military, to NEADS, must have occurred at about 8:29, not 8:38, as the official account claims. This would mean that the military had 18 minutes, not merely 9 minutes, to intercept Flight 11 before it got to Manhattan. Plenty of time, given the fact that such interceptions are usually made within 10 minutes. Horden's information shows, moreover, that the military must have been contacted even earlier, shortly after 8:20, when the transponder signal was lost and the plane went radically off course, as well as already having lost radio contact. This means that the military would have had over 25 minutes to make the interception. We have, therefore, very strong evidence that the military had been given a stand-down order, canceling standard procedures. This is only one of many examples in my book showing that if we get empirical, we can see that the tapes do not provide the authentic military history of 9/11. They have been doctored. Another claim made by the 9/11 Commission, then repeated by Bronner, is that there were only 2 bases in the northeast sector of the United States with fighter jets on alert: Otis Air National Guard Base in Cape Cod, Massachusetts, and Langley Air Force Base in Langley, Virginia. Bronner, on the basis of this claim, says, referring to Colonel Robert Marr, the head of NEADS, incredibly, Marr has only 4 armed fighters at his disposal to defend about a quarter of the continental United States. although this claim truly is incredible in the literal sense of the term, Bronner uses it along with the 9/11 Commission to explain why fighters were not immediately put over New York City to protect it, and why fighters to protect Washington, D.C. had to come all the way up from Langley. However, if Bronner and the Commission, while interviewing Scoggins, had asked him about this, he could have told them what he told me, that although it is technically correct that Otis and Langley are the only bases in that part of the United States that are designated as alert bases, this does not mean that they are the only bases from which NEADS could have drawn fighters. There were ready fighters in Atlantic City, New Jersey, Toledo, Ohio, Syracuse, New York, Burlington, Vermont, and Selfridge, Michigan, as well as Andrews Air Force Base right next to Washington, D.C., on which NEADS could have called. Once again, if we get empirical about 9/11, the official story disintegrates. Popular Mechanics makes an even more outlandish claim about alert fighters, alleging that after the end of the Cold War, the United States did not keep any armed fighters on alert. They support this claim with a statement by former Republican Senator Warren Rudman, who was quoted in a Boston Globe article as saying, "We don't have capable fighter aircraft loaded with missiles sitting on runways in this country. We just don't do that anymore. To expect American fighter aircraft to intercept commercial airliners is totally unrealistic." This quotation comes at the conclusion of Popular Mechanics' section on interceptions, in which it argued that the military's failure to intercept the airlines does not mean that there had been a stand-down order. This quotation was evidently intended as the knockout punch. However, if one actually reads the Boston Globe article, one finds that it does not conclude with that quotation from Rudman. Instead, the writer follows it by saying, "Otis offers something close to that posture, however. Its 102nd Fighter Wing is equipped with 2 armed and fueled aircraft ready to fly around the clock each day of the year." So much for Popular Mechanics' knockout punch and its honesty. What was true at Otis, incidentally, was true of other alert bases around the country. For example, Captain Tom Pickle Herring, a pilot at Homestead Air Reserve Base near Miami, was quoted in 1999 as saying, "We have weapons on our jets. We need to be postured such that no one would dare threaten us. If needed, we could be killing things in 5 minutes or less." What he means is from scramble order to being up several thousand feet in the air going after other planes, 5 minutes or less. As this and many other examples show, the subtitle of the Popular Mechanics book needs to be expanded to read, "How Conspiracy Theories Cannot Stand Up to the Facts If We Are Allowed to Determine What the Facts Are." Another question that can be answered responsibly only on the basis of an empirical investigation of the facts is why 3 buildings of the World Trade Center collapsed after 2 of them were struck by airplanes. Early reports claimed that the fires had melted the steel. A BBC television special 2 days after 9/11 quoted 2 experts as saying this. But some early members of the 9/11 Truth Movement, getting empirical, pointed out that although steel does not begin to melt until it reaches about 1,500 degrees Celsius, 2,800 degrees Fahrenheit, the maximum temperature that can be reached by diffuse fires based on hydrocarbons such as jet fuel, kerosene, would be about 1,000 degrees Celsius, 1,800 degrees Fahrenheit. Accordingly, even if the fires had been as hot as building fires can possibly be, they could not come within 1,000 degrees Fahrenheit of the temperature needed to melt steel. In response to